Hello. Look, I know something about you. You're here because you're searching. You're probably wondering, how can I earn some extra income, even though I may be working a full-time job, or I might be retired, or I might just be starting out in my journey in my career. My name is Pam Coleman. I'm going to be with you for about 15, maybe 20 minutes max, sharing with you some ways that you can become a short-term rental host, just like I am. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm excited about what I'm going to be talking with you about. So let's go. Essentially, I'm going to share with you how to free up your time and increase your income as a short-term rental host. Like I said, even if you're working a 9 to 5, you might have never owned or managed rental property before. That's okay. I'm going to share with you. You don't have to be, uh, you don't have to have everything together. I'm going to share with you some of our successes and failures and how we have really been able to impact our income and our family through short-term rentals. So just to kind of let you know, my husband and I have been married for almost 36 years. We both were investors in Philadelphia at a very young age, even before we got married. So that picture is the two of us, long, long ago. When I was 22, I bought my first property in Philly, and it was a failure. I bought it at a time when the interest rates were very, very high. I didn't know how to manage the property. I lost a lot of money, and I ended up selling it at a loss. Why is that important? Because a lot of times from failure, you are going to succeed. So right now, we currently own and manage about $5.5 million of property, mainly multifamily, and our next step is larger apartment buildings. But we didn't always do that. I just kind of wanted to give you a background so you kind of know that we know what we're talking about. So most of the property that we own and manage, of course, they're long-term rentals. However, we started getting into short-term rentals just several short years ago. The first thing we did was we actually looked at an apartment building that was brand new in Philadelphia. We did an agreement with the owner and we began developing short-term rentals exclusively in that apartment, and we developed 8 of them in Philly. And in the meantime, we also developed one unit here in Atlanta. So that was from November 2021. By January 2022, just a few mere months later, we had 8 in Philly, 2 in Atlanta. So we had a total of 10 short-term rental units. And so these were some of our financial results, and the numbers really don't lie. So the very first month, we started out with $1,300. By what month was that? That was December. By December, we had about $8,000. And again, we were only in business for 2 months. And by March of the following year, 2022, we had already earned $60,000 and we're expected to earn 11,000 more. So I'm just kind of showing you the progression. That is not a typical progression because most people aren't going to start with 10 units, but again, just sharing with you that we know what we're talking about, and I would love to be able to help you to succeed. So, in addition to succeeding financially, also we were able to get and we are able to maintain good ratings. So that's really important in the Airbnb space and being able to be a short-term rental host. All right. So how does that relate to you? Let's keep it moving. Have you ever considered, I think I want to do short-term rentals, but I'm not quite sure what I need to do? Well, here's what I would share with you. The first thing you want to do is consider a potential area. So, wherever you live, what is close to you that's of interest? Like, what do most people want to visit when they come into your area? And what types of people frequent this area? So, is it more college age students? Is it retirees? Are there families? Are there people who want to come for vacation or to sightsee? That's one of the things you want to consider when you're thinking about a potential area. And again, I'm just sharing with you some basic information about how to succeed as a short-term rental host. The next thing you want to look at once you kind of decide what area you're interested in, and an area is not going to be an entire state. You need to kind of rein it in and maybe look at one or two zip codes. in a particular area. You need to know something about the regulations. And I always tell people whenever you can find things that are free, go for free as opposed to, paying money for something. And so proper insurance actually insures short-term rentals and they have a regulation map. And you can actually type that in your browser right now, proper insure slash regulations map. And it's going to show you what are the regulations in your area. Why is this important? Because there are so many things that are being regulated, and you want to make sure that you are staying in compliance with wherever you're going to do your short-term rental. So here are some possible restrictions, like do you need a permit to have a short-term rental? Do they only allow it in a personal residence, or can you have it in someone else's residence? Do they require a designated agent to handle issues? Whatever those things are, you can look this up on the regulation map. And that's very important before you get started, before you start investing. And again, the map looks something like this. It shows you where regulations are instituted right now throughout the United States. And that doesn't mean if there's nothing in your area, that doesn't mean nothing's coming. Just, kind of Google and see, are there some upcoming regulations that might be on the way? Again, just sharing with you some basic tips if you're considering short-term rental hosting. The next thing is you might want to just look at, even if you've found an area, and even if you are considering, okay, the regulations are fine, what are some actual potential profits? And again, this is something you can do for free. There's a website called AirDNA. You can analyze potential profit. I believe you have 2 or 3 times to do it. After that, they're gonna ask you to pay. So make sure that you've kind of identified what you're interested in before you put the information in, because once you do it once or twice, I think by the 3rd time, you're not allowed to do it without paying. But this is another website that you can utilize for free for the first 3 times, and you can actually see what your potential profit is. So here's something else that I think is important for you to consider, and just kind of to let you know, as I'm sharing this information with you, it's a lot of information all at once. But at the end, I'm going to share with you, if you are interested in working with us, how I can work with you so that it won't be so much, it won't be so overwhelming, because I have a way um, that I can work with you over time, and you have access to information that I put together so it can be just not as overwhelming. So there are 3 different approaches to being a short-term rental host. The first one is, if you're a homeowner, you might have some extra space in your house. You might also consider, if you don't want to do it in your home, you might want to consider rental arbitrage. What is that? That's actually renting someone else's place, whether it's a home, whether it's an apartment, but you rent someone else's place, and then essentially you're running a short-term rental out of that person's place. And there are many factors to consider about that, but that's, one other approach. The last thing is, you might be an investor. You might have your own home, but you actually don't want to use your home, but you have an investment property, or you're going to buy an investment property. That's another way for you to become a short-term rental host. And let's talk a little bit more about those things. So, a lot of people think that a home is an asset, but I beg to differ. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket, it doesn't take money out. And most of us that own a home, you're paying a mortgage, you're paying your utilities, you're paying your taxes. Where are you getting money from? But as a short-term rental host, you can actually turn your home into an asset where people are paying you to stay, maybe in an area in your, you might have a guest room, you might have a large home that has several bedrooms, and maybe there's a spare room that you're not using. There might be a basement area, but whatever the case may be, you can actually pay your mortgage through someone else sharing your home. So you can take this liability of your home and turn it into an asset. And I'm asking the question, is your home currently an asset or a liability? Actually look that up. Now, the bank will tell you, oh, it's an asset. No, it's an asset for the bank, because while you're still paying the mortgage, it's their asset. They can take it back. that it's collateral that they can take back. But once you begin bringing money into your home, it becomes an asset. We can talk more about that. So here's something to consider as a homeowner. Um, Here's some advantages. I just talked about that. Switch from having a liability to an asset. You're able to determine how often you want to use your home as a short-term rental. So maybe it's the holidays, you don't want anyone in your home, or maybe you only want to do this for the summer. You decide how often you want to do it and what space you plan to use. There are tax benefits, but I always suggest you talk to your accountant because they know your situation and you want to make sure that you have clarity. Here are some potential challenges. If you don't set proper expectations for guests and they're coming into your home, that's a challenge. But in this course that I'm going to share more about with you, I'm going to share with you how you set the right expectations. Also, if you don't establish the right environment, so your home is your home, but when you have guests coming in, what are some of the things that they're expecting? Same type of things, same type of amenities. If you're going to a hotel, there's certain things that they expect as guests. And also the other possible challenge is possible HOA restrictions if you live in, that type of community. So we talked a little bit about if you're a homeowner, and I just want to show you, remember I was telling you about the course. This course, B&B Stars, has 6 different modules. So the first module, the first week, we talk about how to search. The next week, we talk about how you're going to set up your short-term rental, some of the things that you need, you have checklists and so forth. The third module, you're going to talk about team. The fourth module is automate. How are you going to make it so easy that you don't have to be in front of your computer all the time, especially if you're working, you don't have time to do that. And then responding to your guests so that you can become, your ratings are very high. And the last module, module 6, is an individualized module where we sit down and we work out a strategic plan to help you succeed. So I'm giving you an overview of that was the larger picture. And I look at just module number 1, the first week. Every single week, we will meet live for 5 weeks straight. We do a video where we're discussing things, and that video becomes a part of your collection of things that you can always have access to. And then there are also action items. There are tools that you're going to download. So it's a very robust program, and it will help to keep things just systemized and order. We talked about if you're doing things in your home. The second thing is rental arbitrage. Now, what is that? That's actually going into someone else's home. Maybe they are landlords and they're just sick of having tenants. So you might be able to approach them where you will actually take over renting their property and letting them know that you're going to take very good care of it, and that becomes the place where you have your short-term rental, or the same thing, you can do the same thing in an apartment. So this is actually the building that we rented. The entire building was brand new. No one had ever lived there, and we turned the entire building into Airbnb units. There were studios, there were 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. So here's some advantages. You don't have to qualify for a mortgage. If the lease at this place doesn't work, then you can always leave. It's a lot more flexible. And if the numbers work, it can be very profitable. But here are some things to consider about rental arbitrage. You definitely want to do it as a corporate entity. You don't want to do it as an individual just for liability purposes, which we talk about in the course. Um, and you aren't exempted from barriers. So, for example, you're going to have to approach and convince owners to be able to establish a corporate lease, which we'll talk about in the course. And also, there are certain tax advantages that you're not able to take full advantage of because you don't own the property. All right, the third way to be a short-term rental host is if you already own investment property or you're going to buy investment property. So you're not using your own home, you're not going to sublet or arbitrage someone else's place. You might already have an investment property, or you're going to use, or you're going to buy one. So here's some advantages. If you do this correctly, you can actually earn more money as a host than a long-term, having a long-term tenant if it's done well. You can take advantage of peak times to charge more. So for example, there might be a holiday weekend. So normally your place might, your Airbnb or Verbo rent might be about 80 or $90. Well, during a holiday, it might be $120 a night, $130 a night. And we talk about pricing strategies. And also the other thing is Airbnb and whatever other platform you may use are your advertisement vehicle. So they spend millions and millions of dollars to advertise all these properties, but then you have to know how to, be able to use the algorithms to boost your property up so it's seen. We talk about that. Here's some things that you have to consider. If you don't already own rental property, purchasing with today's interest rates can be problematic. You have to make sure that you're, conscious of what you're doing. And if you're not experienced in this, this is something we can help you with, but that's something to consider. Also, normally as a long-term, you have long-term tenants, they take care of all the utilities and so forth. You have to do that. You have to turn on utilities, cables, and so forth, so you can prepare it for short-term rental. And also, instead of being or paying a property manager, you're really in the hospitality business, which is not a problem for me, but for some people, they don't like that. But that is something to consider if you already have long-term tenants. It's a little bit more hands-on. All right, so we talked about three different possibilities for you becoming a short-term rental host. Now I'm going to give you a few tips, and then I'm going to share with you how you can, if you would like to work with me, how we can work together so that I can help you to succeed. Here's some quick tips. When you are setting up your short-term rental, you want to make sure that you set up and do staging. So some tips are, instead of trying to do it all yourself, use TaskRabbit or Home Advisors if you're not handy, or if you don't know people who are handy. Second tip, you definitely want to have a professional photographer. If you use Airbnb, they actually have photographers that will work with you, but you don't want to take your pictures on like a cell phone because it doesn't come out right, and the algorithm will not push your short-term rental to the top. So use a professional photographer. Also for cleaning, if you're just starting out, and your rental, your short-term rental is close to you, or if it's in your home, you're going to do your own clean. You can save money. But once you start getting larger, like when we had all those apartments in Philly, we had to use professional cleaners, professional laundry, and so forth. So anyway, that's something that you kind of want to consider when you're doing the short-term rental. You're thinking about short-term rental. Automation. In the course, we actually show you how to automate. And so I'm showing you, that's module 4. It's showing you some of the things that we're going to talk about in terms of automating communication, automating when you have, cleaners. Do you need a channel manager? If you have quite a few Airbnb or short-term rental properties, we're talking about channel managers. Definitely you want automated locks. Even if you only have one property, you want automated locks so that people can get in and out. You definitely want to create a guidebook, and we'll show you all of this. And also doing your scheduled messages so you're not constantly in front of the computer answering questions and greeting people and so forth. You set it up and it's automated, and that saves a whole lot of time and money. All right. Love to be able to work with you to help you to free up your time and to be able to succeed as a short-term rental host. So what we have are live trainings, which is important because sometimes you can take a course, and if it's a prepackaged course, you might have questions, but you don't have an opportunity to talk to someone live. Our trainings are live. They're for 5 weeks straight. And then the last week, or week number 6, whether you want to schedule it immediately after those 5 weeks or wait for a little while and then schedule it, each person will have a strategic individual session for your success plan, because everyone's going to be in a different place. Some of you are going to want to do something in your home. Some are searching for a place to do rental arbitrage. Some of you already have maybe an apartment or an investment in another home, and you want to convert it. So since everyone's in a different place, I'm going to be sharing some information that applies to everyone, but then I'm going to specifically do a strategic individual session with each one of you. You will always have access to the course content, the tools, the updates, and you'll be part of a community. So it's more than just, okay, I'm going to take a course, I'm one and done. There are people who are still in touch with me because each time they get a new short-term rental, they want me to kind of look over it, help write some of the descriptions. So this is something that I feel like it's a lifelong thing, not just about short-term rentals, but also just about real estate in general. There's some other ways that we can work with you, just in real estate in general and financial education and so forth. So, again, B&B Stars, it's helping you to succeed even if you're working a 9 to 5. So this is the actual link, and I hope it'll go right there. Okay. So this is what it looks like, guys. There's a little video clip of me. There's a testimony of Jesse and Lavinia. They're very successful, and as a result of taking my course. And then this just shows you how you can reserve your spot. So the course is either 997 if you're doing it as a one-time payment, or you can do two payments of 499. And when you click on reserve your spot, that's what it shows you. You're going to put your email address in, your billing information, all of it is coded, so I don't see your billing information. And you can either choose to do a single payment of 997 or two monthly payments of 499. Either way is fine. I really just want you to be able to take the course and to gain this information. So let me go back. All righty. So if you have, there's the link. I hope that just being able to share this information with you just gave you a brief synopsis of some of the things that you're able to do as a short-term rental host. I did show you like what some of our successes were in terms of the finances and also in